All right, welcome everybody. We're having Daniel do the presentation since we had so many technical difficulties when we tried to do it over on the webinado. So we're anxious to see again Daniel's indicators because they seem to be working very well, or they have worked very well in the past. So Daniel, again, let's try it again. We're very interested in seeing your information.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Steve. And yes, welcome everyone from my side. Let me just switch on the video so you can actually see me live. Hello, I'm Daniel. And yes, I will be talking today about the best indicator for you and for your trading style. But before I start, let me say perhaps a couple of words who I am, because chances are you probably do not know me yet. So my name is Daniel, and I am hailing from beautiful Montreal, up north in Canada. We had freezing rain today, a bit of snow, and this means that the winter is just about to start. So 4 months of winter are just about ahead of us. Nonetheless, I'm well-spirited and I'm super excited to be here today to present our innovative indicators. Now, my story perhaps is a bit different from most of the traders that you typically listen to. I'm actually a software engineer by training. And for the longest time, I wanted to become a professor. I went through all the degrees at the university. I was teaching at various universities in Canada and also in Germany. But it didn't work out. So I switched to industry. I worked for big banks. I worked for IBM. I worked for Morgan Stanley. And but always as a software engineer. But it was through my work at Morgan Stanley where I was really exposed to the traders in the trading universe. And it fascinated me. Making money by trading, that seemed such an ambitious and such a fascinating objective to have. And so I tried it out. And of course, at the beginning, I made all the mistakes that everybody does at the beginning. I overtraded. I took too much risk. I revenge traded. I held on to losers for too long. And you name it, I've probably done it. And then I came to the brutal realization that, wow, trading is hard and I need help. And as a software engineer, help meant for me that I needed better trading tools. So I started programming because I'm a software engineer. I was able to program. And this is how our story and the story behind tradingindicators.com started. So tradingindicators.com is our online store on which we offer various indicators and tools for all kinds of trading and all kinds of traders. And it started off by just myself in the beginning, but by now, we actually do have a quite versatile team. There's Homer, our UX expert, for example, or Nicola, another software engineer helping me designing innovative tools. We're always trying to give our tools a bit of an edge, to be a bit different, and also to push the limits of what is possible with a particular trading platform. But before I go into this, I'd like to point out that I want this trading session or this session to be as interactive as possible. So if you have any questions, please write them into your Q&A, into the Q&A box in Zoom. And Nicola will keep an eye on it. And if he will interrupt me crudely if needed. And otherwise, I will also ask from time to time if there are any questions. And Nicola will present them to me. So please don't be shy and ask any questions you want throughout this presentation. Now, there's also Homer. She's a bit sick today, so she will not be joining us in the chat, but Homer is also part of our team, and she is the UX expert. And one thing that Homer is very keen on is to build rich visualizations into our indicators. For example, the visualizations that we use with our divergence cloud indicator, which I'll show in just a bit. So we're trying to be a bit different. Our indicators do look a bit different. And but we do offer our indicators for most popular platforms. So TradingView, NinjaTrader, TAS, MetaTrader, ModifWave, one of my favorite platforms, TradeStation, Wealth Charts. We just released our indicator suite also for MetaStock. I know that Steve is He's been using Metastock for a long time now. And what he loves about it particularly is the vast scanning possibility with Metastock. So Metastock is a really powerful scanner. And yeah, we're also now taking advantage of these features that come with Metastock. All right, so a couple of things that are really, really dear and important to our approach is that we do not believe that you will become a better trader by adding more complexity to your trading process. When I say complexity, it can be just a decision-making process of how to identify a trade, or also what you see on the chart. So too many indicators, too many visuals, I think are overwhelming, and they will distract you from what's really important, to identify clean entries. So we value simplicity over complexity. We do believe that a pleasant user experience, and again, this is where Homer comes in, is just as important as the functionality. If you don't enjoy the indicator, if it's too hard to use, if it's too tedious, if it doesn't really appeal to you, I believe you will not become a better trader. And most importantly, we do listen again to feedback from you guys. So if you have any ideas or suggestions, and many of our customers that they've sent us suggestions that we took very dear to our heart, and we actually use them to further improve our indicators. So an indicator is never written in stone. It's an evolving product, and it evolves throughout the years, primarily driven by feedback by our users. All right, so this is also just a bit about me, but I would like to hear now a little bit about you guys. So I have prepared a little poll. And if you don't mind, could you please pay attention to this poll just a second and answer this very simple question. All right, so question number one, which trading platforms do you use? Just out of curiosity. So please take a couple of seconds and answer. So we have NinjaTrader, Thinkorswim, TradingView. All right. No Wave, Wealth Charts, okay, and others. If you use another platform which is not listed, do you mind typing it into the Q&A box so I can see which one it is? That'd be awesome. Okay, great. Thanks for your feedback. I have one more or a couple of more questions. So let's end this one and let's go to the next one. Which trading or which instruments do you trade? Stocks, futures, options, FX, cryptos, or perhaps others? Okay, let's see. So mainly stocks, great. A couple of options, a bit of FX, no crypto. Oh, well, no crypto so far. Okay, interesting. Oh, no futures as well. Okay, sounds good. We do have quite a few examples today for future for stocks and equities. So I'm glad we have that. All right, thank you. Great. One more question, please. For your trading style. And all these questions, of course, they're confident. I don't see your name associated with it. But what is your preferred trading style? Is it more day trading, swing trading, investing, or perhaps a mix of everything? Okay, quite balanced between investing and a bit of everything and a bit of day trading. Great. All right, that's awesome. Perfect. Thank you so much. And last but not least, and then of course, we'll move on with this presentation. How would you characterize your trading personality? Are you more of a trend follower, a counter trend trader, a breakout trader, a scalper? Okay. So quite a bit of trend following. Great. Breakouts. Oh, that's awesome because we do. I will talk about breakout trading today and also trend following trading. Perfect. Great, and a bit of counter trend. Great, thank you so much. This was really helpful. And of course, these answers will help me a little bit to guide this presentation. Also the examples I will choose throughout this presentation. Well, thank you so much. Awesome. Okay, great. Thanks for participating. And now let's move on. So what will I be talking today? Well, primarily I'd like to introduce our innovative indicators. And when I say innovative, what do I mean by this? Because we always try to give our indicators a bit of a twist. And for example, our indicators will not only tell you when to get into a trade, but also when to get out of it, because that's just as important. The exit. We do like to use rich visuals, which can come in all kinds of shapes and forms. And for example, you can see this glowing color behind the price bars, which is our divergence cloud indicator. And the more it glows, the more intense the glowing is, either reddish or greenish, the more value or the more important the indicator reading is. In this case, it shows a bullish green or a bearish divergence. And I will introduce this also throughout this presentation. And another example of what we try to be doing different is our instant statistics, which come with most of our indicators. So without running any back tests, you'll see right away on the chart how well the signals are working for a particular time frame and symbol. As you can imagine, not every indicator will work equally well. It's very natural. So there's no such thing that an indicator works all the time. But at least now you can see how well your indicator is working for a particular symbol and time frame. And oftentimes you'll realize, wow, this indicator does not seem to be working at all for the symbol, perhaps. And this is also a very important information, because sometimes staying out of a trade or not to trade is the best trading advice that you can get. And I believe our statistics, which we call the instant efficiency statistics, will help you to make this decision, either stay out of the market for the symbol or perhaps engage into it. All right, so these are just some examples, but of course I will be more concrete just a bit later in this presentation. So what will I cover today? Well, I talked a little bit about me, and so this is done. So now I will introduce our trading 360 trading plan. And we call it 360 or 360 degrees because we have a bit of a plan for every aspect or for every market condition, be it a trending market, a reversing market, or a sideways market. So full circle. That's why 360 degrees. We then argue that there is a right indicator for each market condition. We don't believe there's the right indicator for everything. I think that's too ambitious, but there can be the right indicator or a right indicator for every market condition. And I'm going to make a case around that thesis. Eventually, we're going to look at a lot of charts. I'm going to show you all of our indicators, how they work. We're going to scan for signals. We're going to look at live charts. And if you're interested, I do have a special offer for all of you towards the end of the presentation. So please stick around. All right. So, and again, the reminder is to, if you have questions, write them in your Q&A box. The more questions, the better it is, the more fun it will be throughout this presentation. So don't be shy. So trading 360, as mentioned, I do not believe, or I strongly disagree that there is a silver bullet, meaning that it's one indicator which will work all the time. There is no secret recipe like this. Instead, as the market changes, the market may change from a trending market. Eventually, the trend will come to an end. It might reverse or go into a sideways consolidation. And all these different market conditions require different trading techniques. So a range-bound market must be traded very differently from a trending market. And there's no one trading style which will work all the time.
Alexa, next song.
Sorry, Stephen?
Oops, I guess you still have me unmuted. You want to mute me?
Sure. Oh, I will can mute you, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, you're muted. That was Stephen. Okay, perfect. So, as I said, the market conditions will change. A trending market trend may come to an end. It might reverse or go into a sideways consolidation. And there's a different trading approach needed for each of these market conditions. So let's quickly review what are these different market cycles. Let's start with the most obvious one. And many of you have indicated that you are perhaps more of a trend following trader. So in the trending market, the market will move into a direction for a prolonged period of time. And even such a market can be range bound, but it's range bound by a sloping channel. I'm going to have an example of this in just a second. The greater the slope of the channel, the stronger the trend. So here we have an example of such a trending market. It's an uptrend, obviously. But even in such an uptrend, we do have a channel. and in which price moves. But this channel is sloped. And the stronger the slope, the steeper the slope, the stronger the trend is. Now, how do we trade such a market if once a strong trend has been established? Well, one thing to note is that a trending market will often retrace within its channel. And one approach is to wait for such a retrace and then enter in the direction of the trend. For example, the market may retrace to this level here. You can enter to the long side at this point, hoping that the trend will continue in the direction of the predominant trend. And why wait until it retraces? Well, for two reasons. First of all, you want to get a better entry price. The more it retraces, the cheaper the price will be, considering that you might go long in this case. But also you want to limit your risk, because in a trending market, and given the characteristics of the trend, you must use a generous stop loss. And typically you will put the stop loss somewhere below the lower end of the channel. So imagine you would enter up here. Well, in this case, your stop loss would be quite far away, and your risk, let's say it doesn't work out, is quite elevated at this time. So it is recommended to enter towards the lower end of the trading channel and put your stop loss just a bit below this channel, just to limit your risk. Okay, so quite obvious. This is for the trending market. Now, in a trending market, it is really true. The trend is your friend, and the chances are, once a trend has been strongly established, that price will continue in the direction of the trend. You can take advantage of this. But of course, the disadvantage might be that it may take quite a while until you know that the trend has been established. At this point, it might be already quite pricey to enter into the trade. That's always a bit of a downside of a trend trading approach. The opposite, or the reversal of this, would be a counter trend approach. You would bet, in this case, on the reversal of the trend. The trend will come to an end. And ideally, if you're a reversal trader, you will bet that the trend, let's say you're an uptrend, will reverse to the downside. And there are some signs which will, hint at that the predominant trend might come to an end. For example, it might be the break of a trendline channel, or perhaps you may spot a divergence between price and some indicator reading. So they don't agree with each other. So here we have an example of such a trend channel break. Eventually, the uptrend came to an end. It broke below the lower end of the channel. And if this happens, this can be a strong indication that the trend has come to an end, and it will reverse to the short side in this case. Now, one important thing to note is that counter trend trading is difficult, and you will be wrong more often than you will be right. Because as I said before, it is likely, despite a retracement, that the predominant trend may continue after all. So you have to be comfortable with this, and this goes directly to your trading personality. If you're a counter trend trader, you must be comfortable with the fact that there might be multiple losers in a row. One way to mitigate your risk, however, is to use a fairly narrow stop loss. So let's say you're looking at the trend channel break here. You want to put your stop just a bit above the channel. So if price enters or re-enters the channel, you're getting out of the counter trend trade, because chances are the predominant trend will continue after all. So that's very important, because you may have multiple losers in a row. But hopefully, at some point, you will spot a reversal on time. And the big advantage here is that you will get into the new trend at a very advantageous price, at a very good price. So if you go short here, it's at a really good price. And if this trade plays out, you're in for a bigger payout, which will hopefully make up for all the small losers that you may have encountered along the way. Now, this is not everybody's preferred way of trading, because you must have really some good confidence in your approach that this will actually happen. Many of you may give up after having 4 or 5 losers in a row, even though they may be small, because it's not very discouraging. And it's definitely more encouraging to have smaller winners than smaller losers, and then eventually having a big winner. So you have to be really a confident trader to take advantage of a reversing market. Now, but there's one other market condition which I would like to discuss, which is the sideways market. But actually, before I do this, I forgot about this slide here. One quick comparison between a trending or a trend entry and a counter trend entry. And let's look at this chart here. And both the upper chart and the lower chart show exactly the same price action. Both times it's Apple on the daily. So up here, but also down here. But what we can see on the upper half is it's a classic trend entry. And why is that? Well, we can see here that an uptrend has been established for quite some time. And we can see this by the sloping channel. We can see this by making higher lows. Yeah? And we can see this also by the fact that the previous high before the small downtrend here has been exceeded already. And if all these things come together, we can be fairly confident that we're on a new trend. Yeah? And we can perhaps enter into a trade at this point here. Yeah? And this, by the way, is shown by our 1, 2, 3 strike indicator, which I'll discuss in just a bit, which is a classic trend trading indicator. So you have this entry signal here. The lower chart, on the other hand, shows a classic counter trend entry. Why counter trend? Well, because we were in a downtrend here before this entry. So this was a downtrend. And then at the early warning signs, which can be seen here by these little triangles, we enter into the opposite direction to the long side, hoping that the previous downtrend will be replaced by an uptrend. And of course, the big advantage of a counter trend entry is that we're getting into the market much, much earlier at a much better price. Just compare the price up here at around 80 versus the price we're getting here at around 68 or something. So that's a big, big difference. So we're getting in at a much better price. But of course, the risk is that well, the predominant downtrend may continue after all, and we're getting stopped out because we have fairly little evidence that the downtrend will not continue. Just a few warning signs. And now we're betting on the fact that these warning signs will actually play out. And we have designed an indicator which can predict these trend reversals with a fairly good degree of certainty, which we'll call the divergence cloud indicator. You can see this here, and it says this glowing notion behind the price chart. And you can see we were in a downtrend here, and eventually the reddish color was replaced with some greenish color, which shows some bullish divergence. And then the indicator finally flagged an entry signal. In this case, it worked out very nicely. I'm going to demo this indicator as well in just a bit. Now, there's one more market condition which I'd like to discuss, simply for the fact that it's the most common one, which is a sideways market. Statistics say that, typically a symbol will be in a sideways consolidation 70% of all times, which is the majority of all time. And such a sideways market, price typically ranges between some strong levels of support and resistance. For example, as shown here, a classic sideways markets, and the market is range bound to the upper side and the lower side, and we have these horizontal lines of support and resistance. During a sideways consolidations, typically the volume, as you can see down here, remains fairly low. So that's another characteristic. Now, how could we trade such a market? Well, I guess one approach would be to perhaps use a scalping technique where it goes short when price approaches the upper end or the level of resistance and go short for a little bit. And perhaps we do the opposite as price approaches the level of support. Perhaps we go long here just to take a few pips off the market. That's one way to trade it. Another way to trade it could be to wait for a breakout of a sideways consolidation. You can see this a little bit here, as indicated by our volatility crusher indicator. It spots these sideways consolidations, and eventually there will be a breakout, and then we will enter in the direction of the breakout. And if the breakout comes along with some additional factors, such as volume and some other characteristics which are important for a high probability breakout, the chances are that price will continue in the direction of the breakout for quite some time. And truth be told, this is actually my favorite indicator. Not because I like sideways markets so much, no, but for the fact that it actually gives the highest probabilities of all the three indicators which I just talked about. We're going to see how we can prove this in just a bit as well. All right. So before I talk about these indicators, are there any questions, Nicola?
Yes, Daniel. Daniel, can you hear me?
Yes.
There is a question. Dan would like to know if these indicators have scans available on TradeStation. So I couldn't remember.
We do.
I believe they do.
Yes, they do. They do.
Okay, perfect.
We're actually going to do some scanning today. We're not going to use TradeStation, but TradeStation is one of the platforms where we do support scanning. The other ones are, off the top of my head, of course, MetaStock, which is like the scanning master platform. TOS, Thinkorswim for sure, ModifWave, which we're going to be using today. NinjaTrader does scanning too, and Wealth Charts as well. All right.
Is there any platform, Daniel, you'd recommend? Last question.
They all have their strengths and weaknesses. I really like ModifWave, and I'm going to show you in a second why, which is I think the most visually rich platform with the most unique features. But TOS, you don't have to worry about your data provider. It comes in one package, which is quite convenient. The MetaStock too, where you have access to a super powerful scanner, but perhaps some other limitations. So it really depends on your preference. And we can discuss this perhaps a bit later down the road once you've seen all the features of our indicators, because some of the features will not be available on some platforms, and we can discuss this.
Great, that's all. And I'm sure everybody's happy to hear that the cloud is visible on all platforms. That was a question.
Yeah, that's right. Yep, perfect. Okay, so let's talk about the indicators. So we do believe, one more thing before I talk about the indicators. So I believe that every trading style, be it a trend following trading style or a counter trend trading style, perhaps a breakout trading style, they all can be used successfully. Yeah, and it comes down a little bit to identifying the right market condition, when to use which style, but it also comes down to your trading personality and what you're comfortable with. But they all can be used successfully. And I argue that whenever you use the right indicator, trading can become successful. So what we've done, we have developed one indicator for each of the three market cycles. So we've developed the 1, 2, 3 strike indicator for a trending market, the divergence cloud indicator for a reversing market, or to spot reversals, and the volatility crusher for breakout trades. And so let's have a look at them. So 1, 2, 3 strike will identify strong trends and well-established trends. So for example, as you've seen in the Apple chart just a few minutes ago, it waits for quite some time to make sure the trend has been thoroughly established. And it does this by looking at directionality. So making sure that trend has been moving in one direction for quite a while. It looks at volatility and also volume. And if all three factors come together, an entry signal will be flagged. All right, so that's 1, 2, 3 strike, and we're going to see an example in a second. Now, for counter trend or reversal trading, we have developed divergence cloud. Like with any other divergence indicator, we're comparing price action to an underlying indicator. But instead of using the RSI or the MACD, we have developed a custom indicator, which is a volatility-based indicator to which we will compare price action. And we did this for a reason, because we've spent quite some time in the lab testing, researching, optimizing to find the right underlying indicator to which price action can be compared to spot reversals with a fairly high degree of probability. So that's for the divergence cloud, and we're quite happy with the results that we're seeing. And for the breakout trade, we have developed Volatility Crusher, which is designed to spot these strong breakouts out of a range-bound market. And if these breakouts are paired with abnormally high volume and the volatility, an entry signal is flagged. And as I said, this is my favorite indicator because it has the highest probability, and it really also fits well my trading style. So without further ado, let's look at some charts. So lots of theory up front. I hope you didn't fall asleep, but let's look at some charts. Now, I'm going to switch over to ModifWave, which is one of my favorite platforms. Why? Because it looks so awesome. I believe it has the best charting out there of all the platforms that I mentioned before. Okay, so what are we looking here? This is an Apple chart on a daily time frame, and I have applied the 1, 2, 3 strike indicator to this chart. All right, so what do we see here? Let me just zoom in just a bit more. Okay, so these bigger green arrows, these denote our entry signals. Whenever a strong trend has been established, like in this case here, an entry signal in the direction of the trend will be generated. And now, so this indicator will tell you when to get into the trade. And then you have these white little arrows here. And these are suggested exit signals. Because our indicators will also tell you when to get out, which is just as important as getting into the market. So in this case, we would book partial profits here, then partial profits here, there, there, and there. The amount or the number of partial profits that you would like to have, this can be customized in the settings of the indicator. I'm going to go through these settings in just a second. Okay, so we have one entry here, and then you have a couple of partial exits. And the same for the short side. We had like a short entry here, and then a couple of partial exits when to book profits with that short trade, and so forth. Okay, so that's Apple. But I'd also like to show you another chart, which is Tesla on the daily. And again, here we do have the same setup, a couple of nice entry signals here with partial exits along the way. And of course, the visuals, the colors, these lines connecting entries of exits and so forth, they all can be customized in the settings of this indicator. Now, you probably agree with me that just at a glance, this indicator seems to work quite nicely on this symbol and time frame on Tesla and also on Apple before. This is just an intuition, right? We only see a subset of the chart. We don't see everything. We didn't analyze every single signal. But your intuition probably will tell you, well, it seems to work quite nicely. But it's just an intuition. Wouldn't it be nice if we had the chance to actually quantify how well this indicator is working for this symbol and time frame? I believe it would be. This is why we have developed something very unique, and you only have this with our indicators, which we call the instant efficiency technology. And let me just quickly go back to our slides. So instant efficiency technology, or short for IET. It's a technology that we have developed for our 3 indicators, which will show you in real time how well this indicator is working for this symbol and time frame. No backtesting, no algo programming required to do this. You'll see it right away. So let me show you how this works. So back to the chart. Okay, now this is 1, 2, 3 strike, and look at this top left corner here. You see this little box? These are our instant efficiency statistics for the 1, 2, 3 strike indicator. And you can see here that since 2020 or January 2020, we had a long efficiency of 90.91% and the short efficiency of 77.78%. Oh, by the way, if this box is a bit small, this can also be increased in terms of size in the settings of the indicator. Okay, so we see these settings here, and now watch or observe these settings as I change some of the parameters of this indicator. So for example, this volatility period parameter. Let me move this around, and you see here, not only will the indicator update right away on the chart, but so will also the statistics. Just look at them. Right away, you get new statistics. So this gives you a very unique and quick way of adjusting and finding the best parameters for this indicator, because you get this instant feedback, how well this works. Everything can be customized, and as you play around, randomly playing around with these parameters, you'll get instantly better statistics. Of course, you can always when I say better, different statistics, and of course, then it depends on you on finding the best settings for this indicator. Yeah, but this makes it very fast to do so. So ModifWave has these sliders integrated into its settings, which makes it very easy to find the best ones. Other platforms such as Ninja Trader or also TradeStation, you don't have these sliders, but you would have to enter these values and then see how the statistics update, which is a bit more tedious, but nonetheless, it is possible. Okay, this is one of the reasons why I like ModifWave, because these sliders makes it so easy to find the best settings for your indicator. Okay, so this is 1, 2, 3 strike. And let me just go back to Apple here. Okay, so this is Apple. And again, let's have a look at the instant statistics up here. Because there's one other thing I'd like to point out. Do you see the start date here? In this case, it says 2016, November 16. So it's a different start date than we have seen for Tesla. Why is that? Well, this can also be set in the settings. So you can simply go to the settings of this indicator and modify the start date for our statistics. So for example, perhaps I'm only interested in how well the signals performed since, let's say, 2018. So I change it, and right away, my statistics will update. And as we can see here, that to the short side was not very successful since that started of 2018, but the long side at 69% was quite successful. So again, we're not arguing that our indicators will work perfectly well for every symbol, but we argue that there is the perfect setting that you can find for every symbol. Or sometimes you cannot, but in this case, you just not trade this indicator for this particular symbol or time frame. All right. Any questions for 1, 2, 3 strike? Nicola?
No, Daniel, no questions so far.
Okay, great. So then let's move on. The next indicator I'd like to show you is the divergence cloud indicator. So let me just switch over to, again, Apple. And in this case, the divergence cloud indicator is applied to the chart. You can see right away, it looks a bit different than the 1, 2, 3 strike indicator. And this is because, oh, Nicola, can you mute yourself? There's a bit of an interference. Perfect.
Yeah, sorry.
Thanks. Yeah. What you can see here is a bit of a glow behind those price bars. Well, this is our indication of whether we currently do have a bearish divergence or a bullish divergence or no divergence altogether. Yeah. And again, this divergence is calculated based on our proprietary notion of a volatility momentum indicator against which price action is being compared. Similarly to the 1, 2, 3 strike indicator, this indicator also generates entry signals, which are these bigger triangles. Here a short entry signal, or here a long entry signal, but it also shows you the exit suggestions. Here one partial exit at this point, one here, and here, and so forth. The amount or the number of partial exits, just like the 1, 2, 3 strike indicator, can be configured in the settings of the divergence cloud indicator. And of course, you also have the instant statistics displayed here. Now, I've shown 2 charts which are on the daily time frame, but this is just for the sake of this example. Our indicators, they do work on all kinds of chart types, time frames, and for all kinds of symbols, including FX. So there's no limitation to this. It's just a matter of finding the right settings for your indicator. But luckily, with the instant efficiency statistics, you have a very powerful tool to find a good setting for your indicator. All right. So finally, and now I'm coming to my favorite part of this presentation, it's the breakout indicator, the volatility crusher, which I've mentioned before. So let me switch over to a completely different time frame. In this case, it's the S&P E-mini futures, ES. I know that not many traders of you were trading futures, but I'm just going to show you nonetheless how this indicator looks like. So let me just scroll back to find a couple of signals. Okay, so here we do have a signal. And as I mentioned before, this is an indicator which looks for a sideways consolidation of the market and for the fact that it will eventually break out of this consolidation to either the upside or the downside. And the way this is calculated, again, this is all proprietary, based on our own research, is as follows. And this is just for you to understand a bit better how this indicator works. So let's have a look at this little supplementary indicator down here. This little jaggedy line, this one here, that's the current volatility. So it's our notion of volatility. The yellow line down here, that's the average of this volatility. So it's much more smooth, as you can see here. And based on this average, we're calculating an upper band and then lower band based on the standard deviation settings. And whenever the current volatility breaks above the upper band, a potential signal will be shown. This is a broke above. And as you can see here, if this is paired with some other factors, which are also important, and a break below the box happens, either a short signal or a long signal will be shown. And as it turns out, this kind of, looking for breakouts compared with some other factors seems to be very profitable and high probability. As you can see here, our efficiencies from the E-minis, it's the 1 minute chart, are to the long side at 75% and to the short side at 86%, which are very high statistics. And this is why I like this indicator so much. So if you just scroll through the chart here, we can see that we'll find the majority of the signals will be working out and will be reaching the profit targets. Unlike the 1 to 3 strike indicator and the divergence cloud indicator, in this case, we do have a fixed stop loss and 2 profit targets that we're aiming for. So the stop loss is this reddish line up here, which will be trailed as needed. As you can see here, we're tightening up the stop loss. And then we have 2 profit targets, profit target 1 and profit target 2. And as you can see here, it is a quite successful indicator, which will hit the profit targets most of the time. This is also why it's my favorite one, because it doesn't give signals very often. This is a 1 minute chart, so you can see here perhaps 1 or 2 signals per day on a 1 minute chart, which is not very much. But if it is the signal, the chances are that it's going to be profitable are quite high. Let's have a look at Apple, just for the fun of it. This is an Apple, a daily chart again. Again, our volatility crusher indicator is applied. And look at these success ratings here. Since 2005, on the daily chart, we had 98% winners on the long side. And to this downside, we have 70% winners. So again, quite successful on the symbol as well. But as you can see here, not many signals. So you may have to wait on the daily chart for quite some time before another signal is generated. This is why the scanning capability is so important. Because let's imagine you trade equities on the daily chart. You don't want to wait half a year between signals. It's probably too boring for you. But if you have a scanner, you can just simply scan through the entire universe of stocks, so the S&P 500 or whatever you trade, and to find a stock which has an entry signal, because you will have 1 or 2 signals per day if you consider all the stocks of the S&P 500, for example. Now, I mentioned scanning, and especially with the volatility crusher where the signals are quite scarce, scanning is super important. So let me quickly show you how scanning can be done in this platform. It's going to be similar to other platforms. So let me quickly go to the scanner. And while I do this, Nicola, are there any questions?
No, there aren't. You can go ahead.
Okay, so don't be shy if you have questions, please ask them. So this is the scanner here. Let me just quickly pick the right scan criteria, volatility crusher, and let me start it. This is a scan that's built into ModifWave. It will just take a few seconds to complete. I'm only scanning through 53 different symbols, just to keep this example a bit short. But you can see here that it will pick up quite a few results along the way. What's unique in ModifWave is that you're not only seeing the results where we currently have a signal on the last bar on the chart, but you also see hits which happened in the past. For example, here a bar index of 10 will tell you that this signal happened 10 bars ago, for example. 6 meaning 6 bars ago, and so forth. Oh, here we even have one 0 bars ago. Let me quickly click on this. This is Loaf, the supermarket, or the department store. Okay, and we can see here on the last completed bar, we did have an entry signal, and we already had quite a follow through after this bar happened. And if you look at the efficiency ratings here, we had 80% efficiency on the long side and 0 on the short side, but it's because not enough data was loaded. So let me just go back a little bit and a little bit more to get a few more trades in. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, in this case, the short side does not seem to working too well because it's a very bullish signal. But on the long side, this is the long signal here. I think this is probably a trade that I might be interested in taking because, well, history has shown that the long side, whenever the signal happens, it is quite successful. And perhaps let's look at another example. What is this? Toyota, I believe. Yeah, again, here we did have quite a successful statistic on the long side. 80% of the long trades were winners. On the short side, in this case, even 100% of the short trades seem to have worked out in this case. It will change a bit as I'm scrolling back because at the beginning, not enough bars were loaded on the chart, but even now you can see that quite the majority of trades would have been successful in this case. All right. So far the scanner. Any questions, Nicola?
Yes. Do you use any confirmation signals before you trade?
Yes. Always my manual confirmation. So I do not blindly take these trades. They have to make sense to me just by looking at the chart. And I don't use any particular technique. It just has to. I have to feel. It's just the way I work, that this is the right direction for this particular trade. So I possibly would not take a short trade when we're in a very, very strong uptrend, for example. So I just have to feel comfortable with the trade manually. It's just one thing that I need for my trading. Because if I'm not comfortable, chances are I'm not gonna hold on for this trade longer. I'm not gonna. As soon as it goes a bit against me, I will probably close it out because it just doesn't feel right. So I need to be comfortable and happy with this trade. That's my manual confirmation that I'm looking for.
Okay, great. And also, Chalapathy wants to know, how fast do the arrows appear?
In real, well, they appear at the close when the breakout bar is completed, you get the arrow. So we need to wait until this bar is completed because we need to know all the that the other factors are still in place. They will not print intra-bar; they will print at the end of the bar, and then you will.
So they're always valid. That's been a common question. The signals are always valid, right? Because they only occur after the close. They can't be canceled.
They will not be canceled. They will stay where they are once they're printed. So we don't print them intra-bar because we need to wait until all the factors will be still in place when the bar closes. Then you get the signal. And
one more question, Daniel,
is
can we get the indicators on multiple platforms, or do you pay separately?
So it would be a different purchase, but I always say if you're interested to get it for 2 platforms or perhaps 3, just contact me first, and we're definitely going to work out a deal. So you're not going to play double, but we're going to work something out. Okay, and last thing, just to get it out of the way, one more mention from Telepathy. He said that after the signal in your scan, the market went down after it was a buy arrow. So it's not so much a question, but he was just asking. Oh yeah, it is possible. These signals are, we don't guarantee 100% success rate. Perhaps let me quickly look at the scan. Which one are you? Oh, you mean here? Yeah, but you still, your stop loss is here. So of course you will give, this is a daily chart, so you will give your room, you trade quite a bit of room to work out. So this doesn't mean anything. So there's still chances that this trade will continue. By the way, where the stop loss is placed, that's a parameter too. And you can play around with that parameter in your settings. And you can see how the efficiency ratings will improve or not improve. based on where your stop loss is. Same for these profit targets that can be also set in the settings. So it's just about finding the right settings for a symbol and time frame.
That's all. Thank you.
Great. All right. Okay. So if there are no more questions, I'd like to go back to the slides and slowly but surely wrap up this talk. So we discussed our instant efficiency technology, which I think it's the thing I use by far the most, just to find the right settings for a symbol and time frame. And sometimes I cannot find the right settings, and that's important to know too, because that means, well, probably this indicator will not work well for this chart or for this symbol. And this is just as important to know, because as I said before, sometimes not to trade is the best trading advice that you can get. It will also, these statistics will also help you to find these optimal settings. And one thing I forgot to mention is that oftentimes, especially with equity, you will have quite a bias between long and short, between the long and short direction. So if it's equity, typically they tend to go up over time. So you should be very careful in taking short trades because there's this long bias in with these symbols. But sometimes you don't know what the bias is. For example, if you trade currencies, which are more or less cyclic, but they might have a bias on the most recent time, you can use these statistics to see what the bias is. So if your long trades seem to work out better than your short trades, as per the statistics, chances are there is a long bias in the directionality of that symbol. And of course, as I said before, these statistics will help you not to trade when the conditions of the market are not favorable. All right, so that was that. And we looked at charts, of course. And now I do have an offer for all of you today, because as a thank you for listening to me for almost an hour. I know it can be quite painful, perhaps, at this late hour. But I do have a special for you. So we typically offer these 3 indicators on our online store for a total price of $7.97. This is for a lifetime license. So you get all 3 of them, which is already a deal by itself, because if you would buy them individually, you would pay more than $1,000. But just for today, and as a special thank you to all of you, we have decided to give you a special discount on top of the $7.97. In fact, we'll give you, whenever you enter the coupon code POWER during checkout, we'll give you a discount of $150. So the total will be $647 for the lifetime license of these 3 indicators, which are 1 to 3 strike, divergence cloud, and my favorite one, the volatility crusher. So that's the offer we have. If you want to take advantage of it, I invite you to go to our website. And let me quickly go and show you how it looks like. Zoom, but let me go to tradingindicators.com. You go to our website, and you'll see we have many other indicators on our website as well. But in this presentation, we're focused on the power bundle indicators. And you see all the different platforms we offer our indicators for. And if you want to take advantage of this particular special, you can either go to the power bundle icon for a platform. And we have more than 3 indicators per platform. If you want to see them all, you would click here, and you can see all the indicators that we have available for a particular platform. But for sure, you will find the power bundle or package for each of these platforms, like TradingView, Metastock, TAS, NinjaTrader, MartiveWave, and so forth. If this ever loads, there we go. It just takes a little while. Yeah, you will see it here. It looks like this. And if you click on it, you see a lot of more information, like videos, documentation, and so forth. But you will also have the chance to purchase it for this platform. So this is one way for you to do it. The other way to take advantage of it, and perhaps Nicola, can you type it into the chat? You can simply navigate to this link here, tradingindicators.com/power. Power stands for power bundle because it includes these 3 indicators. And again, if you enter the coupon code, also power during checkout, you get these indicators today for $6.47 instead of the $7.97 that we'll usually retail them for. All right. Any questions?
Nope, no questions so far, Daniel.
Okay, well, if you do have questions, I invite you to send this question to me later on through our contact form. Just go to tradingindicators.com/contact, but there's also a menu item in the main menu. And any feedback, any questions, anything that you'd like to share, please send it to me. And we're definitely going to look at everything, and we're going to answer every single question as well. So this is our most important part of our business. We always listen to our users. Most of the ideas for these indicators, they come from user feedback, and this is really dear to our heart. And so the Modif Wave version, for example, of the Power Bundle is now in iteration 8. So 8 times we've further improved these indicators based on user feedback, perhaps added some extra stuff, which makes it more convenient for you, or which makes it more appealing for you to use. So if you have feedback, please send it to us, and we're more than happy to address it.
Daniel, how long is the offer valid?
Not too long. So definitely until the end of today, but I'm probably going to leave it on for another 24 to 48 hours. But then it's going to be done. So don't wait too long for the special offer. Otherwise, it goes back to the $7.97, which by itself is also a deal. But the $6.50 is only valid for definitely today, and I'd say until the end of tomorrow.
Perfect. No other questions.
Great. All right. I think this wraps up this presentation. Steve, do you want to say something at the end? Perhaps say good night.
Yeah, Daniel, very good stuff. And I always want to reiterate that anytime you've got somebody that has developed a successful system that improves the probabilities, and not only is this improving the probabilities, but you've got the capability now using Daniel's system to see what those probabilities are. So that's, instead of somebody giving you the statistics of this is this successful or that successful, you can actually run the test yourself or put the parameters in yourself. So this is a very powerful tool to have in your arsenal to see when something is ready to move and what the probabilities are of it moving. So Daniel, this is very good stuff, and thank you for doing this session again.
Thank you, Steve, for hosting it again. That's awesome. Thank you. All right. So, well, I guess then this just leaves me with saying good night to everyone, or good morning, wherever you are, and have a nice rest of your day.
All right. Thank you, Daniel. Everybody have a good evening. We'll see you bright and early in the chat rooms.